In the heart of the vast Galactic Council chamber, representatives from hundreds of star systems and species gathered, a complex web of alliances and agreements binding them together. The Council prided itself on diplomacy, maintaining balance across galaxies filled with diverse and often contradictory ideologies. But despite the Council's efforts to build a stable peace, one species was always the subject of quiet murmurs and whispered concerns: the humans, known across the galaxy as Deathworlders. Humans were a mystery to the other species. Originating from Earth, a death world, by universal classification, they had evolved under conditions that would have been fatal to most other life forms. Savage storms, aggressive species, extreme climates, the humans had survived it all. Their adaptability and resilience were known, yet unspoken, as most council members preferred not to think about what humans might be capable of if pushed too far. It was often easier to focus on their contributions to the Alliance, their technology, diplomacy, and strong ethical stances, while overlooking the potential for something darker. Even so, the label of Deathworlders carried a weight. To some, it was an uncomfortable reminder that beneath their politeness and restraint, humans held a capacity for violence that the Council had yet to see. And as long as humans maintained their calm, the Council felt reassured, clinging to the belief that perhaps their fears were unfounded. The Keldar, a species known for their strict social order and pride, were among the most vocal skeptics. For years, their leaders had viewed humans with suspicion, claiming they were too dangerous to be trusted. To the Keldar, humanity's reputation for survival and aggression was seen as a threat to galactic peace. Despite the humans' record of diplomacy, the Keldar never missed an opportunity to cast doubt on their intentions. On this particular day, tensions were unusually high. A recent diplomatic dispute had flared up between the humans and the Keldar, sparked by a minor border disagreement that the Keldar insisted was evidence of human aggression. The council session was tense as representatives gathered, anticipating an update on the escalating situation. At the head of the room, the Keldar ambassador, Zarik, stood with an air of confidence. His tall frame and piercing gaze surveyed the chamber, his disdain for humans evident as he spoke. "Once again, we find ourselves questioning the integrity of the Deathworlders among us," he announced, his voice echoing through the vast hall. "They speak of peace, yet their very nature defies it. They come from a world of chaos and survival, traits that have no place in a civil council." The murmurs from other representatives grew louder. Although few openly voiced agreement with Zarik, the apprehension in the room was clear. Humanity's reputation had always lingered as a quiet undercurrent, and today, Zarik was bringing it to the surface. Captain Rowan, the human ambassador, rose to respond, his expression calm but resolute. He was well respected, known for his level-headed approach and unshakable patience. "Ambassador Zarik," Rowan began, meeting his gaze steadily. "Humans are here as equals, bound by the same commitment to peace as any other species in this alliance. We do not seek conflict, nor have we ever acted with hostility toward the Council or its members." Zarik let out a scoff, his sharp eyes narrowing. "And yet, the reputation of Deathworlders precedes you. Are we supposed to ignore your history simply because you say so? We know what you are capable of, what you hide behind that mask of diplomacy. Tell us, Captain, how long before your true nature emerges?" Captain Rowan's face remained impassive, though his eyes held a steely glint. "Our true nature, Ambassador," he replied, "is one of resilience, yes, but also of restraint. We choose peace, despite the struggles we've endured. We are here because we believe in this alliance and in the values it upholds." Zarik sneered undeterred. "Spoken like a politician. But we all know it's a matter of time before Deathworlders show their true selves." He turned to the council, his voice rising. "We cannot afford to ignore the threat that lies within our ranks. How much longer will we turn a blind eye to the dangers they pose?" The other council members shifted uneasily. Some clearly shared Zarik's concerns, though others looked away, unwilling to stir the tension further. It was clear that, for many, the fear of humanity's untamed side lingered, a specter that Zarik had now brought to the forefront. Rowan took a breath, visibly steadying himself. "We are here as allies, not adversaries," he said. But do not mistake our patience for weakness, nor our restraint for fear. We respect the Council's commitment to peace, and we expect the same respect in return. Zarlik's smirk widened. Is that a threat, Captain? Rowan met his gaze without flinching. Consider it a reminder, he said, his tone unwavering. We will defend our honor, our people, and our place in this alliance. If we are pushed, we will respond, but only as a last resort. The silence that followed was heavy, the tension thick in the air. Rowan's words were not a threat, yet their weight lingered, a subtle reminder of the power humans kept restrained. The council members, caught between the humans' record of diplomacy and the Keldar's pointed accusations, found themselves wondering where the truth lay. In that moment, it was clear that a line had been drawn. The humans had long chosen restraint, but Zarlik's accusations were a spark, testing the boundaries of their patience. And though Rowan's tone was calm, the glint in his eye suggested that this patience was not infinite. The council chamber buzzed with the tension Zarlik's accusations had unleashed. The Keldar ambassador's words lingered in the minds of the council members, stirring long-standing fears about the humans. The quiet murmur of voices grew louder as representatives debated, some casting uncertain glances at the human delegation, others silently questioning their own doubts. It was as if the council had suddenly become aware of a dormant power seated right among them, one that they had both relied upon and feared. Captain Rowan, calm as ever, noted the shift in the room. He understood the weight of the Deathworlder title, the reputation that came with being human in a council that valued stability and predictability. But he also knew there were limits to what could be ignored. Beside him, his delegation members maintained their composure, though Rowan could sense the growing frustration among them. They, too, were aware of the Keldar's ongoing attempts to cast humans as the Council's lurking threat, painting them as outsiders despite their years of service. Then, just as the Council session seemed to settle into a hushed tension, a team of Keldar security guards entered the chamber. Their presence was a violation of Council protocols. Armed guards had no place in the assembly hall, and their arrival only served to escalate the unease. The guards moved forward, their eyes fixed on the human delegation. Zarlik, barely hiding a smirk, nodded to the guards as though giving them silent permission. Rowan's team shifted subtly, preparing to defend themselves if necessary. But Rowan raised his hand, signaling them to remain still. He knew that any sudden reaction would only serve to reinforce Zarlik's claims. Yet, there was an unspoken understanding that if pushed, they would not stand down. The Keldar guards approached, and one of them stepped forward, addressing Captain Rowan with an expression of contempt. You and your people have caused enough disturbance here. You're to leave immediately and await further questioning outside council grounds. Rowan's jaw tightened, but he remained composed. We are council members, here by invitation and by right, he responded evenly. We will not be intimidated, nor will we leave under unsubstantiated accusations. The guard took a step closer, his tone growing bolder. You will leave, Deathworlder. The council has no place for those who threaten peace. The word, Deathworlder, rang out, dripping with disdain, and the room fell silent once more. Rowan's gaze hardened, but he restrained himself. The human delegation remained immovable, refusing to respond to provocation. The council members watched, each one aware of the fragile line the humans were walking, an unspoken test of whether the so-called savage Deathworlders could truly control their nature under duress. Zarlik seized the moment, his voice a venomous hiss. See? This is what they are, primitive brutes, barely restraining themselves from violence. They hide behind diplomacy, but the truth is plain to see. He swept his gaze across the room, inviting the council to witness the humans' true nature. At that, Rowan let out a measured breath, his patience reaching its breaking point. He took a slow step forward, meeting the guard's gaze directly. The humans have been patient, he said quietly, his tone now carrying a faint edge. We have tolerated insults, slander, and unfounded accusations, all for the sake of peace. But there is a limit to patience. The guard moved to place a hand on Rowan's arm, and in an instant, Rowan reacted. He twisted his arm out of reach and deflected the guard's advance with a swift, controlled maneuver. In seconds, the guard was off balance, staggering back in shock. The other guards rushed forward, but Rowan's team moved just as quickly, each member neutralizing their opponent with practiced, precise movements. No weapons, no excessive force, just pure efficiency. The entire altercation lasted less than a minute, but in that brief exchange, the humans had displayed a skill and control that left the entire council stunned. They moved with the practiced precision of warriors who had trained for years, yet their restraint was unmistakable. Each guard was subdued without injury, their weapons taken from them and placed on the ground. Not a single human had resorted to violence beyond what was necessary to defend themselves. Rowan turned back to Zarik, his gaze steady and unyielding. We have never sought to impose ourselves on this council. But if we are tested, we will respond. That is our nature, not savagery, but a deep commitment to our people and to the values we uphold. He looked around the room, addressing not just Zarik but every member present. You call us Deathworlders because we come from a world that has tested us beyond what many here could survive. But that does not make us dangerous. What makes us dangerous is if our values are questioned, if our honor is disregarded. The council members shifted, their initial fear replaced by an unexpected respect. They had witnessed something that defied their preconceived notions. Humans were indeed capable of force, but their actions showed a profound sense of discipline, a willingness to hold back until there was no other choice. The Keldar guards, still recovering, looked up at the humans with a mixture of fear and awe, the power of their restraint and undeniable display of control. Zarlik's confidence wavered, and he found himself momentarily speechless. This was not the outburst he had expected. Instead of a display of unchecked violence, the humans had shown the galaxy that their strength lay in their choice not to unleash their full potential. They had subdued a force without crossing the lines Zarik had accused them of being eager to break. As the council members processed what they had witnessed, a quiet respect settled over the room. The humans had revealed themselves not as mere Deathworlders, but as guardians of a strength tempered by choice. And in that moment, it was clear that the galaxy's understanding of humanity would never be the same. Zarlik's initial shock was quickly replaced by seething anger. The Keldar ambassador had expected the humans to react impulsively, to reveal the dangerous force he had warned the council about. Instead, they had showcased something even more unsettling: precise, controlled power. His plan to undermine the humans had backfired, and the council members around him were visibly affected. They had not seen unrestrained aggression but rather a tempered, disciplined response that hinted at a depth of strength far beyond what they had imagined. Refusing to let his failure undermine him, Zarik pushed forward with his next move. Determined to expose what he perceived as a threat, he took his demands to the council leader, advocating for an immediate inquiry into the human delegation's presence. He painted them as a volatile force, hiding behind diplomacy to mask their inherent savagery. His words resonated with a few representatives, those who already harbored doubts about humans, but others were beginning to see through his fearmongering. Captain Rowan and his team observed in silence as Zarlik's accusations grew louder. They understood now that this was more than an attack on their character. It was a test of their resolve. Despite everything, they chose not to retaliate. They maintained their dignity, a quiet defiance that only served to unsettle their opponents further. As the council deliberated, Zarik took one final, desperate step. In a clear violation of protocol, he summoned a Keldar fleet to the council's outer perimeter, positioning it as a show of force. It was a blatant display, an attempt to intimidate the humans and reinforce the perception that they were the threat. But Rowan's team remained undeterred, their silence a reminder of the patience they had learned on Earth, the restraint honed over generations. The Keldar fleet's arrival set off alarms across the council's network, and the tension within the chamber reached a breaking point. Many representatives were now alarmed, not by the humans, but by Zarlik's actions. For a council devoted to peaceful negotiation, the Keldar's display of aggression was seen as an overreach, a violation of the very principles they were meant to uphold. Captain Rowan addressed the council once more, his tone measured. Our people came to this council in good faith, hoping to be part of an alliance that values honor and mutual respect. We have shown restraint, even in the face of provocation. But let me make this clear, our patience is not endless. We are capable of peace, but if forced to defend ourselves, we will do so with the same resolve that has allowed us to thrive on a world that tests us daily. His words resonated, the council members now faced with a choice: to believe the narrative Zarik had woven, or to recognize the humans' unwavering commitment to peace. Rowan's stance was unmistakable, a promise, but also a warning. The council had the power to shape the future, to choose allies who would stand by them or allow fear to drive them to unnecessary conflict. Zarik, unwilling to back down, demanded that the humans face trial, a proceeding that would require them to defend their very nature before the council. He saw it as an opportunity to humiliate them, to strip them of any remaining dignity. But his push for a trial only further revealed his desperation. The council members exchanged uneasy glances, some still wary of the humans, but others now suspicious of Zarik's relentless vendetta. As the debate continued, Rowan's patience wore thin. He had no desire to threaten, but he would not allow his people to be subjected to a trial based on prejudice and falsehoods. "We do not seek conflict," he reiterated, "but we will not bow to intimidation. If you wish to see our strength, you will see it. But know this, it will not be for your benefit." The quiet confidence in his words unsettled even Zarik's supporters. They had expected fear or anger, but instead, they saw only a conviction that could not be swayed. Rowan's words carried the weight of a history the council could scarcely comprehend, a history of survival against odds that would have broken many of them. Finally, the council leader intervened. Recognizing the gravity of the situation and the fragile balance at stake, he proposed a private session to discuss the matter further. He dismissed the call for trial, acknowledging that such a proceeding would only serve to deepen divisions. Zarik, furious but restrained by the council's decision, withdrew his demand, though his hostility was palpable. In the moments that followed, the humans were left alone in the chamber, a silence falling over the room. They knew this was far from over, that their presence in the council would continue to be questioned. But for now, they had weathered the storm, showing the council a side of humanity that was complex and powerful. Rowan looked to his team, each one of them understanding what was at stake. They were not just defending themselves, they were defending humanity's place in the galaxy, the right to be seen as equals despite their history, their differences, their resilience. The council had been given a glimpse of humanity's strength, and though it had shaken them, it had also revealed the value of having such allies. As they exited the chamber, Rowan's thoughts were clear. Humans would not abandon their nature, nor would they forsake their commitment to peace. But they would not hide either, not anymore. The council now understood what it meant to stand alongside Deathworlders, not as predators, but as protectors, warriors who had chosen restraint over recklessness, honor over hostility. It was a new beginning, not only for the council but for humanity's role within it. As Rowan and his team left the council chamber, a subtle but undeniable shift had occurred within the Galactic Council. Word of the altercation had spread quickly, and rumors of the humans' quiet power, their precision, and their ability to defend themselves without crossing boundaries had stirred something deeper than fear: respect. The incident had exposed the flawed assumptions some council members held, assumptions that were now being quietly reconsidered. The humans returned to their quarters, gathering to reflect on the day's events. The tension that had lingered for years had finally come to a head, forcing them to confront their role within the Alliance. Rowan's team knew they had proven something vital, that they could endure provocation and still hold to their principles. But they also understood that respect from the Council was fragile, something they would have to reinforce over time if they were to remain part of the Alliance. As they discussed the day, a signal came through, calling Rowan back to the Council chamber for a private meeting with the Council leader. Rowan agreed, prepared for whatever might follow. He knew that a decision would soon be made, one that could define the future not just for his delegation but for all of humanity in the galaxy. In the private council chamber, the leader stood waiting, his expression somber yet thoughtful. He invited Rowan to sit, his gaze steady as he regarded the human representative. "Captain Rowan," he began, Today's events have given us much to consider. You have shown strength, and more importantly, restraint, a quality we feared your people might lack. But I must understand, for the sake of this alliance, what truly drives humans. What compels your people to choose diplomacy when you clearly possess the power to act otherwise? Rowan took a moment, considering his response carefully. He knew that his words would carry weight, shaping the Council's perception of humanity for years to come. We understand survival, he began. Our planet, our history, has made us familiar with conflict, with resilience. But over time, we learned that survival isn't about domination, it's about finding balance, about learning when to act and when to hold back. That restraint you saw today isn't a mask. It's a choice, one we make because we know the cost of violence. The leader listened, his expression thoughtful, clearly intrigued by Rowan's perspective. Rowan continued, We came to this council because we believe that peace, cooperation, and mutual respect are paths worth pursuing. We have much to offer, not just in strength but in alliance, in the commitment to uphold peace alongside others. And if ever that peace is threatened, we will defend it. But we will never be the aggressors. The council leader nodded slowly, absorbing Rowan's words. He seemed to grasp the depth of humanity's commitment to peace, but he needed assurance that this resolve was genuine. I have seen your people's discipline, he admitted. But I must ask, if you are ever forced to act, if circumstances arise where peace fails, what can we expect from Deathworlders? Rowan met the leader's gaze without hesitation. You can expect us to defend ourselves and our allies with everything we have. We won't seek out violence, but we won't shy away from it if necessary. We are not simply warriors or diplomats, we are survivors. And while we value peace, we are prepared for whatever the future brings. But understand, our strength does not define us. Our choice to exercise restraint does. The council leader sat back, studying Rowan intently. It was clear he had not expected such honesty, such a balanced understanding of both power and patience. I have heard many species speak of their virtues, their values, the leader said slowly. But few possess the self-awareness your people seem to have. We may have misjudged you, Rowan. Perhaps we feared what we did not fully understand. Rowan nodded, acknowledging the council leader's sentiment. We understand that our nature may seem complicated to others. But we are committed to proving that our presence here is a strength, not a threat. After a pause, the leader extended a hand in a gesture of respect. Then let us proceed forward with that understanding. The council will remain open to your people, not because of your strength, but because of your choice to wield it wisely. That is a quality we value as much as peace itself. Rowan shook the leader's hand, a weight lifting from his shoulders. This conversation, this recognition of humanity's complexity, marked a turning point. Humanity would not be defined by the suspicions of others but by the strength of their commitment to uphold peace. For the first time, Rowan sensed that the council had seen beyond the label of Deathworlders, and recognized the value they brought to the alliance. When Rowan returned to his team, he relayed the council leader's decision, and a quiet sense of triumph spread through them. They had not only defended themselves, they had reshaped the council's understanding of who they were. This alliance was no longer simply about gaining acceptance, it was a foundation for humanity to build upon, a step toward a future where they could share their strengths and values without fear of judgment. Word of the council leader's recognition spread quickly, and the other members took notice. Zarik, defeated yet undeterred, was forced to concede, retreating from his attempts to paint humans as a menace. He would not forget this day, nor his failure to break them, but he had no choice but to accept the council's decision. As the humans prepared to leave the council station, Rowan took one last look at the grand chamber where it all began. He knew that there would be challenges ahead, and that prejudice would not vanish overnight. But he also knew that humanity had taken a stand, not with force, but with purpose, showing the galaxy that their true strength lay in their ability to choose restraint over dominance. This was only the beginning. Humanity's journey among the stars was far from over, but they would continue forward, stronger and more certain of their place in the galaxy. And in the halls of the Galactic Council, They would no longer be seen as unknown Deathworlders, but as allies fierce in defense of peace, determined to contribute not through fear but through resilience and choice.